Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here from our studios at the Capital Region International Airport. We're going to go west, young man. We're going to go over to the West Coast, Grand Rapids, actually. Jeremiah Mostrom joins us. He's the Chief Revenue Officer at Axios HR. And Jeremiah, it just occurs to me, everyone should have a Chief Revenue Officer. How you doing?
Sir. I love it.
Actually, if you pull revenue out of most companies, they really don't do well after that.
That's a fact.
Yeah. Well, listen, you guys are everywhere these days, so I know you've got a great handle on things, which is one of the reasons we keep coming back to you. Let's talk about a couple of the things that have been happening. Where are we at the Great Resignation? Talk about the effects that had on the workforce.
So that was a real challenging time, right? Companies were trying to adjust to everything that happened to COVID, and I think people thinking about the uncertainty of life and the time at home with their family. And I mean, there's a whole list of things like internally and externally, I think, that affected that. And people, decided, like, hey, what's important to me? I need, is this job important to me? Is working, in what I'm passionate about, is that important? And it really caused a stir. And I think some of it was positive, right? I think there was people that, decided that they wanted to be doing what they loved and what they were passionate about. But I think it created a lot of struggle for employers just keeping those roles filled.
It's interesting. Another piece in there too is the weighing of the cost of healthcare versus going to work too. That played, I think, pretty well.
A big role, absolutely. All of that was definitely connected, and but I think what we kind of see is that that settled down, right? And us being in the recruiting business, we had our hands full. We were busy helping companies find those replacements. But yeah, that kind of moved us into, we got past the Great Resignation, and then it became quiet quitting, which I think we talked a little bit about last time. Yeah. And now then it kind of shifted from there into the Great Exhaustion, which, they're looking at, post-pandemic, we're looking, people are spending 40% more time connected to work because of the work, being able to work virtually. And, there's a lot of positives to that, but also I think what we're seeing is a higher level of burnout. And to that point, they did a poll. It's 76% of, it was a Gallup poll, 76% of people feel that they are experiencing burnout sometimes. 28% feel that it's extreme and they have it very often, feel burnout. So I think underlying, starting with COVID, the Great Resignation, quiet quitting, and this is on both sides. This is employers, this is people. So I think it's important for us to be considering those things.
Got to kind of orchestrate to some kind of solution here. Hey, you alluded to it, quiet quitting. Let's go over that real quick and where are we at?
So I think that is a phenomenon that hopefully is past. I think it's still, the dangerous part is it sneaks up and it becomes toxic before people realize it happens. So I think keeping an eye out and understanding like where employees, how they feel, making sure that they're engaged, and that you're engaging them for feedback and understanding kind of the temperature, and addressing issues early with your HR department. I think that's really important to kind of avoid that. But, it's one of those things that sneaks up and has a real impact on businesses, unfortunately.
Well, listen, everybody likes to talk about the past, but in most cases, they're happy it's in the past. What are we looking for in the future? Where are we trending? What should we be prepared for, Jeremiah?
So that's a really great question. And I'm going to show you this picture that my daughter made. I don't know if you can see it, but what it says is, love what you do and do what you love. And so really underlying the biggest thing that we have to be thinking about is how do we help our employees, or how do we as employees find meaning in our work and meaning in what we do? And when you think about all the things we just talked about, the way that we help with that is we find meaning. And so a few quick things that we need to be looking at is clear purpose and vision. So how does a company talk about their vision, their purpose? What metrics are they using to make sure that is something that's always being talked about? The second thing, people don't leave jobs, they leave leadership and they leave managers. So we firmly believe, and we do it ourselves, and we help other companies look at leadership development. How can we develop leaders to be the best they can be? How can we develop leaders to, be able to work with the hybrid work environments, that kind of thing? The third thing which I think is also important, is understanding what is your community impact, right? So if I get up every day because I love the fact that we have a huge impact on this community, and I think just about everybody that we work with does as well. So how do we judge our community impact? How do we talk about the community impact that we have? I think people really find meaning in that. And then kind of shifting, I think another thing just to kind of watch as we look forward here is how does the gig economy play into how we can help people with flexibility? How can we, look at, and it's a movement that's gaining steam. And so if anybody's interested in learning more about how to think about that or talk about that, that's something that we're addressing and we're seeing quite often. And there's a lot of benefit to it, but it's definitely time to take a look at it.
Well, there you go. It's kind of like workplace making when you think about it. When you reduce, I guess, take the water out of it. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah. Listen, we got about 30 seconds. Do we have enough bodies in the future to fill the need we have in the workplace?
That's a really tough question. I think that we do, but I think that it's one of those things that in Michigan, there's a number of factors specifically that we need to make sure that we stay ahead of. And my suggestion would be to look at the job, look at the trend, and look at the analysis of that role and how it could be effective with recruiting, or maybe there is a shortage. So it varies on job and geography.
Well, listen, you'll keep us abreast because we're going to bother you again in the future. Jeremiah Mostrom, he is the Chief Revenue Officer at Axios HR in Grand Rapids. Good to spend time with you, Jeremiah.
Thank you, sir.
We're going to be back with a whole lot more. You're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network.